On Friday, after we ended our show, a vigil was held on the campus of Utah Valley University for slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Several thousand people attended that. It was near, I think, or at the venue where he spoke. But this weekend, I think it was yesterday, in Arizona at State Farm Stadium, which I think is where the Arizona Cardinals football team plays, a very big remembrance was held, and it lasted 5 hours. I think there were something like 60,000 people there. Erika Kirk shared the most powerful message of the day. This is his widow.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Okay, that took a lot of courage, and that was something that came out of the blue. I think I think a lot of people didn't expect that, but it was huge. It was huge. It was probably the most important thing that we heard all day.
That's actually one of the things that I saw as I looked through multiple news stories all weekend. Is that moment really stood out to, I think, members of the media. I think people who were there, people in Utah. So in Utah, there was a gathering at the Provo Convention Center. Utah GOP Chair Rob Axson was there. There were people there who were tuned in to the broadcast of this funeral. As you mentioned, it was 5 hours, but there were 3 hours of lead up music to that point. I mean, people were lined up before dawn. It was an all day affair with a lot of speakers. And I think Erika Kirk, her ability to be able to say that it's got to be so fresh, right? The grief is so fresh. It's only been a week and a half, not quite 2 weeks. That was super powerful. And she had more also to say.
I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
President Trump followed after Erika Kirk spoke, and at the moment that stood out, unfortunately for the president.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erika. But now Erika can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
I think
Not
that's
sure who
just
he's talking
weird.
about here. Yeah, in terms of his opponent, although he articulated a little bit who that would be. So if you had to break down the speakers yesterday, they sort of ranged from the religious, and the two sound bites that we just heard were perfect examples of this. The religious Charlie Kirk and the political Charlie Kirk. And Trump brought out sort of the politics of it, where Erika talked about the religious part of it. And there were, I think his pastor, there were several religious speakers there, and then they got to the political speakers, including both our vice president and president, who had fairly significantly different messages.
Although, to be fair, they also mentioned Christ, and I think President Trump mentioned bringing people to Christ and Charlie Kirk's efforts. It's just that it was such a juxtaposition at a memorial service for someone who really was just assassinated for his political beliefs to say, I hate my opponent, right? That was so, it felt unnecessary, right? And what's interesting also is the crowd liked both statements.
Yeah, they sort of applauded equally to both statements. And I think for the reason that we just talked about, there's the religious angle to this and there's the political angle to this. And you can forgive in the religious part. And you know, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, about the death penalty, and that you can forgive someone but still
want accountability.
Yeah, to still speak. I could see someone speaking, and I'm just thinking rhetorically. This has nothing to do with this particular case. At a allocution hearing or something where somebody's trying to not get the death penalty and say, look, I forgive you, but I still think that that's the appropriate punishment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think those are inconsistent themes. What Trump said is clearly inconsistent, which is the hate, but the forgiveness part of it could still include something more than just, let's move on. I mean, he should still be punished, and I'm sure that she'll never back off from that. But if you recall, Erika Kirk, after the event, after her husband was killed, she doubled down a little bit, and her initial response was, "You haven't seen anything yet. If you think that we're done, you're wrong."
Well, I don't think that has changed.
Right, and so, but then she gets up there and I think gives a very poignant. It was, by all accounts, it was a very good thing that she said. The president also said that he will soon be honoring the Kirk family.
But that's why I will soon award Charlie the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's the highest civilian honor.
He ended his remarks saying that they grieve for the leader that they lost, but they go forward strengthened. And again, it was really interesting to me to see. I've never seen a 5-hour memorial service. I mean, that seems so long. And it seemed to be a combination of a religious revival meeting and a political campaign rally, but a combination of both talking about Jesus and talking about the radical left and talking about Turning Point USA and how it was going to go forward and how we're going to have 1 million new Charlie Kirks. It was a really interesting 5 hours.
Yeah, and there were people there from all over the country. I was surprised that it went 5 hours as well. I would have been uncomfortable sitting there for 5 hours. But it was at a football stadium. And what was pleasant about this, from what I've heard and read, is that there were not any major disruptions. Nothing happened untoward during the event. I mean, people were well behaved.
I saw
one. There may have been some protests outside or something like that, but once they got inside the stadium, it seems like things were relatively calm.
Yeah, I didn't hear about any protests, but I did see one article where there was one man who was carrying a gun up to the stadium dressed as a security guard, but they arrested him pretty quickly.
Yeah, I suppose there was some fairly high alert there for guns and security. There was Kimberly Kell from California attended the memorial and said it was really powerful.
You could feel so much love and so much want for this country to just get better and grow, and this love for the Lord, and just a change. Like, we just need a change.
It's interesting. You described it better than I did. Religious revival and political rally.
Yeah.
I think those are the words you used, and that's exactly what it was. And an interesting mix of both of those. Of course, the political part of it got a little heated, but the religious part maintained a spirit of let's move forward, even forgiveness. What are the messages of Christ? And I don't know.
There was one speaker who said, "Go have 1 million kids." Okay, well, I have almost that many, but I mean, there were different calls to action. Some of it was, have a lot of kids. Some of it was turn to Jesus. Some of it was make sure you elect the right people and that God set these rulers apart. That was Benny Johnson saying these are ones prophesied in the Bible to come save our nation, save our world. It was a thing.
I feel a little bit naive because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I hardly knew who Charlie Kirk was.
and
now
you know.
He filled a football stadium with Super Bowl quality security and attendance. It was really a interesting event.